Hi, Ron. Dennis from Risk Frame here. What we're going to be discussing today is a set of tools and techniques for detecting AI misbehavior. What you're seeing on the screen are a set of those tools and techniques that we'll briefly summarize, a little bit of Python code, even though some of it was generated through an LLM for the purposes of a demo, very straightforward things to get you started on monitoring, and then an output, a graph of a specific set of cases where we're looking for inputs and outputs in terms of length for a local installation or an LLM. All right, let's get started. So looking at the important tools and techniques for detecting AI misbehavior, you've got number one, of course, monitoring and logging. So here you're trying to carefully track the AI inputs, the outputs, the expected values, and then also the unexpected values. There's many checks. We'll be doing a rudimentary checks when it comes to checking the length of the input and the output. That's part of our demo. But there's far more advanced things that you could do in terms of the unexpected patterns that are involved. Second, the interpretability methods, SHAP, LIME. These are methods where you're trying to see how the model has made a specific decision. So they provide explainability and interpretability insight into how a decision was taken by your specific model. Adversarial testing, one of my favorites when it comes to, well, the realms of penetration testing, red teaming, looking at what a specific model is doing and what it's not doing. And here you're also trying to probe the AI with specific values and sometimes also stress testing in terms of number of inputs, number of outputs, lengths, total values, and so on and so forth. Comparison to baseline models. This is something that we often forget. So when it comes to comparing what our model is doing, we can also compare it with what the output of other models that have received, identical training or similar training at least is. And this gives a very nice benchmark in terms of not only what your output should be, but also what a simpler model is finding the issue to be in terms of what it's responding to. So it's very nice to, from an engineering perspective, solve a problem with a much smaller model in question and then try to apply it to a bigger set. That's where comparison to baseline models is very important. Human evaluation, of course, which ties into sometimes adversarial testing, and human evaluation involves having a number of domain experts, prompt engineers, people that don't really know anything about the inner workings of transformers and modern AI systems, take a look and try to bias or produce errors in that context. Automated checks, very important when you have egress or ingress models sitting in front or behind your specific model in question. If you submit a swear word perhaps to a model, the response is going to be different, and that is something that would be expected to be caught in terms of an automated check so that your AI is not misbehaving. And finally, three more, multi-stakeholder testing, where you've got different inputs from people of different backgrounds, ongoing monitoring and production. Of course, we do that for regular systems. Why wouldn't we do it in the realm of AI? And here it's very important to track the metrics in the context of the AI operations, not in context of just the servers and the CPUs and the GPUs. And then finally, statistical analysis, a catch-all when we're looking for things like drift detection, identifying shifts in AI behavior, and similar. All right, so with that, we've taken you through a very high level of the several tools and techniques for detecting if your AI is misbehaving. What I'm going to focus on now is just a brief demo where we have a local instance of Llama 2. For those of you that don't know what Llama 2 is, currently Llama 2 is seen as a GPT equivalent in version 3.1. We'll be using the older version for the purposes of this demo. And what we have is a number of inputs that I'm highlighting here on the screen, which basically are the prompts that we're giving our model. What is the capital of France? How does photosynthesis work? Relativity, etc., etc. And what we're measuring is a set of outputs when it comes to the length that we're receiving. And that's the graph that you see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, effectively. Now, even though this is a basic check, it's important to note that for query number 2, and of course we're indexing at 0 because it's an array in lovely Python. So for the third input, we are seeing a peak where the model has responded with over 3,500 characters, right? That's a lot if you compare the first value, which was, only a couple of characters, and of course, because the capital of France is Paris, right? And that's 5 characters, compared to the specifics in and around answering or trying to explain the special or general theory of relativity in words. So straight away, we're seeing that peak here, and then also we're seeing a trough in later responses. Those peaks and troughs, even though rudimentary, are going to tell you a lot about, well, what is it that is a consistent response for your model, right? In some cases, you also want to filter out or limit how big that response is, and that's also important. So more advanced checks when it comes to the specific category of what we're looking for, which is the first one, wandering and logging. We're carefully now tracking the inputs and outputs in terms of length. We'll be looking at the entropy also. So what is it that the model is actually producing in terms of not just characters in terms of length, but also the types of characters and how much value is there in those words. That's also a good analysis to see if hallucination is about to begin. So typically you would have something related to the length, and then a hallucination in models pre-transformers, chat models. So that's a simple demonstration of how to basically do monitoring in terms of length, input and outputs, where you're checking whether or not your AI is misbehaving. Hopefully you found this of value. Thank you very much for your time.